We keep hearing, follow your passion and the rest will come. But what if you have too many passions? I've just found out why, like you maybe, I struggle with the one passion to rule them all narrative. And if you give me a chance and more than a few seconds to develop, you may find that you are struggling with the same thing. And if you watch until the end, I will share with you the one thing that may change your vision forever and help you unleash your potential. I'm Casino, I'm the Digital Alchemist, and today you will find out why I give myself this title. So let me give you some context. I was born in Africa, Zaire, and I started traveling the world at age 2, moving to France, then to Belgium, then to Italy, then back to Belgium, then to the UK, to the US, then back to Belgium, back to the UK, and then back to Belgium until I decided and come back to Africa, at least geographically. When asked, what do you want to do when you grow up? I used to answer that I wanted to be a diplomat because my father was one and I admired him so much. But then when he told me that I could make my own choices and become whatever I wanted to become, it went from wanting to be a pilot to an archaeologist to a lawyer, NBA all-star player, baseball player, R&B singer, journalist, and I'm sure I must have skipped a few. Now, bear in mind that internet did not exist when I was a kid, because if it did, I'm sure I would have come up with a dozen more career ideas. As a young adult, I wanted to study journalism, but a friend of my father convinced me to start law school so that my father would be proud of me. I was naive, so I did. And to everyone's surprise, after 1 year and promising grades, I decided to quit because it just wasn't something that I wanted to do. Now, instead of just quitting and doing nothing with my life, I decided to start studying to become an interpreter because I thought, okay, this is easy for me. I speak English, French, and Italian fluently, so I might as well do that. So I started and everything was going really good until I discovered a new passion: the internet and building websites. There was no YouTube back then and almost no courses if you wanted to learn that craft unless you had a lot of money, which I didn't. So I learned on my own. Now, as you can imagine, there was no way I still wanted to be an interpreter after falling in love with the web. So I completed my first year, which I passed with mention, and then I decided to switch gears and to pursue my dream career. It was tough because at the time, companies had only one person for all things digital. It was called a webmaster. And if a company already had one, it was almost mission impossible to get the job and pursue that career. And talking about careers, I tried retail as well as working 3 weeks in Burger King in Oxford Circus in London. Then I worked successively as a flight attendant and then an IT help desk agent. Then I finally got a job as a web marketing webmaster for an airline. But then the airline I worked for was purchased by its rival and I thought I was going to get fired. So I switched gears, I had an opportunity and I became a police inspector. Now, to cut a long story short, I had secretly applied to become a police officer, and that goes back, way back, to an old bet that we made with some friends.
Yeah.
Now, what started as a bet became a reality because the very same day I received a letter from the police telling me I could get in is also the same day where the company I worked for was purchased by its rival. So I worked 4 years as a police officer, but I was missing the web and his creativity. So I went back to work as a web commercial officer, and guess for who? For the airline that actually purchased the previous airline I was working for. And eventually I decided I wanted to fly on my own and went freelance. And to make things even spicier, I decided to do that on a tropical island I had fell in love for 11 years before, some 6,000 miles away. And oh yeah, before that move, I almost became a football agent. So as you can see, for most people, I would be labeled unstable at best. And that's why when people ask me about my background, I always stay vague and I only talk about one part of the story. It kind of makes me fit more into the little boxes that people love. Now, the problem is, this is not me. And it's probably not you either if you're still watching this. And to be honest, I often feel bad about that because it seems like everybody around me always knew what they wanted to do. Also, not to brag or anything, but I've almost always been good, if not very good, at the things I tried. It's usually a pattern where I get interested about something, then I go all in, then I devour all available information and I try to be as good as possible. Then I get bored and something shinier excites me, so I go all in, and so on. So yeah, I feel guilty for not sticking with my project and ideas. And talking about ideas, I can have so many ideas in just one day. To give you an idea, the other day I was watching a video about 2 sisters that wanted to leave Europe and go back to their home country in Africa. The video was like 45 minutes. There was no fancy B-roll, nothing, just pure content. And I watched it all. Then I felt all excited because it's been a few years I have the urge to go back to the country I was born in, at least just to make a visit. And I've been feeling that lately some very positive things have happened in some parts of Africa. So my brain started doing what he always does. And before I knew it, I was trying to find a name and a concept for a new YouTube channel, the logo, the color palette, the topics for shows, podcast ideas, and so on. And that was after watching just one single video. And I watch more than one video per day. I can't tell you how many business ideas I've had, how many names I brainstormed, how many logos I created that are sitting on my hard drive. But what used to make me sad is that I feel exhausted having so many passion, interests, and ideas, and feeling like I never had enough, and asking myself if I would ever find that one thing that would define me and make me normal. Now, what I've just realized after finding that video that I will link to in the description below. So what I've just realized, and that's one of the reasons I made this video, is that many people are actually experiencing the same thing, and it's called multipotentiality. And according to Wikipedia, multipotentiality is an educational and psychological term referring to the ability and preference of a person, particularly one of strong intellectual or artistic curiosity, to excel in two or more different fields. It can also refer to an individual whose interests span multiple fields or areas rather than being strong in just one. By contrast, those whose interests lie mostly within a single field are called specialists. And it all started to make sense. This was the reason why my first ever character in World of Warcraft, and the one I invested most time in, was a druid, because he was multi-skills. This is also why I get bored after I master something and I feel like I'm stuck in a cage. This is also why I did not pursue law school even though my grades were promising, and also why I didn't want to become an interpreter after finishing my first year with Mention. Now, the usual narrative says, jack of all trades, master of none. And I used to believe that. I also used to believe all the advice from the non-multipotentialite experts. The problem is, that narrative is broken, because more than likely it was expressed by non-multipotentialite people, and I don't blame them because they have no idea what it feels like to be one. And by looking at the number of views on that video that sums it all up, I suddenly realized that I was far from being alone, and that was such a relief. After all, I always start my videos by telling you I'm the digital alchemist because this is who I am, and I want to fully embrace it. I love creating websites and tutorials to help, but I also love shooting the videos, editing, creating some of the music, coming up with creative branding concepts, and so on. But I realized that people just wanted tutorials, so I shifted gears and I started doing only that. But as much as I love helping others, creating tutorials only did not fulfill me. So I found a compromise where I mixed tutorials with some other type of videos, even though I knew I would get less views. So it's kind of funny because I've been calling myself a digital alchemist for years before even hearing about the word multipotentiality some 10 days ago. Now, I made this video because I finally understood why I am the way I am. And knowing there are many people out there feeling the same, I feel confident embracing my multipotentiality instead of fighting it. And I hope this video can comfort some of you if you're going through the same pattern. And I think that one of the reasons why I stick with web design despite all the other ideas I could have developed is the fact that it truly allows me to express myself as a multipotentialite, even though I did not know I was a multipotentialite. And okay, you may be in a different field, but just get the idea here. A web designer is like a Swiss Army knife. And I know that the meaning of a web designer is really vague and really broad and can differ. But in my case, it involves layout design, front-end development, graphical software mastery, project management, photography, copywriting, and much, much more. And as you can imagine, running a YouTube channel about web design allows me to integrate video making, video editing, scripting, lighting, audio editing, search engine optimization, digital marketing, and much more. Now, in contrast, when I was a police officer, all I did was arresting people, getting my daily dose of drama and negative energy, and the only place where I could try to be creative was in the statements that I had to write. But as you can imagine, that was pretty limited. Now, even though I do not regret spending 4 years as a police inspector because I learned a lot about human nature and about myself, well, I could still feel that I was dying inside, at least creatively. Maybe this is you too. Maybe you are not doing what you should be doing. So if you are a multipotentialite, finding a field where you could express your many interests could be the key. And in my case, this channel allows me for that. Now, that doesn't stop from having other ideas, and that's why I created the Unfamous Academy channel, because I needed to have a more creative outlet. But unfortunately, the videos there take so much time to create that it's not really compatible with the current time I can devote to it, at least for now. Now, of course, I don't mean that you should pursue everything at the same time and on the same channel. And by channel, I mean entity. This entity could be a business, it could be a YouTube channel, it could be a social media channel, and especially platforms like YouTube, because these type of platforms reward focus more than anything. So one tip is to prioritize based on the time you have available. And once you know the time you can devote to it, it gets way easier to pick which of your many passions comes first. Now, I've often found out that sometimes you just need to stop thinking about what could be and just start trying things. So at least you know if this is something you want to pursue or not. Now, in my case, one thing is for sure, I want to put more of who I am into this channel. And as promised at the beginning of this video, I'm going to share the one thing that opened my eyes. It is not bad to be a multipotentialite. It's who you are, and I'm going to prove it to you. Ever heard of Leonardo Da Vinci? Now tell me, how much would the world have lost if he had stuck to one of his many passions and interests? Maybe you are the next Leonardo da Vinci, but if you don't allow you to be who you really are, not only are you not doing yourself a favor, but you may also be depriving the world from things that could change it. If Leonardo da Vinci, yes, I got it. If Leonardo da Vinci had stick to just one niche, depending on where you grew up, we may never have had the Mona Lisa, the Last Supper, the parachute, the helicopter, solar power, calculators, and the self-propelled car, which may be considered the ancestor of the cars we all like driving today. Now, you may be thinking, I'm not Leonardo da Vinci. I'm not qualified. Sure, not everybody is going to be Leonardo da Vinci. But wait, you still have unique things to share with the world. The world doesn't need a clone of Leonardo da Vinci. The world needs new creators. And by the way, talking about qualifications, Wikipedia has this to say about Leonardo da Vinci. As a scientist, Leonardo had no formal education in Latin and mathematics and did not attend university. Because of these factors, his scientific studies were largely ignored by other scholars. Leonardo's approach to science was one of intense observation and detailed recording, his tools of investigation being almost exclusively his eyes. Now, question of the day. Please let me know if you also consider yourself a multipotentialite. Maybe you already knew it, or maybe it's just after watching this video. Please let me know because I'm genuinely curious. And I would really appreciate if you could tell me what your passions are. I'd like to know if we have common interests and if you can enhance the content on this channel. Now, whether you are a multipotentialite or a specialist, there is one thing you should absolutely do. Give this video a thumbs up. It's free, it doesn't take time, and it really helps this channel.